Hey there, marketers. My name is Monique Ruiz, and you may recognize my voice as the host of Claritas' podcast, The Marketing Insider. But today, I'm joining you by video for a special fireside chat. I'm lucky enough to have Jelanii Reed, Chief Strategy Officer at Authentique Agency, with me to help us continue our celebration of Black History Month and the Black consumer market. Plus, she'll also help us transition seamlessly into our celebration of Women's History Month and International Women's Day. So we're very excited. Jelanii, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I first learned about Authentique Agency when I was doing a little bit of research into multicultural marketing agencies, and Authentique showed up over and over again on the list of ones to watch. But for anyone who is not familiar, can you introduce yourself, your role at the agency, and what clients typically look to you to assist them with?
Absolutely. So, Jelanii Reed, I am the Chief Strategy Officer at Authentique Agency. And in my day to day role, I'm really responsible for the overall health of the company. And what that really means is finding opportunities to position our company for growth, for strategic partnerships, for integrated marketing opportunities for Fortune 100 or 500 brands, and also making sure that we have a solid footprint within the communities that we're also marketing to, because we truly believe in being a part of something larger than ourselves. Authentique was founded in 2016. We really do focus on multicultural and LGBTQIA audiences, but we also focus on general market because we know today that the market is shifting. So general market takes on a new meaning.
Yeah.
So we're really positioning ourselves to, have a seat at the table and really introduce multicultural audiences as the new general market audience to brands and organizations.
Awesome. So, your background includes a focus on sports, entertainment, and multicultural marketing. But what is it about the sports and entertainment industries that attracted you to focus on them from a multicultural marketing perspective?
So not very tall. So I knew I wasn't going to be in sports, right? But I knew I knew there was an opportunity and a passion that I had to really affect change. And
Mhm.
what do I mean by that is really understanding that there is a universal truth around sports and entertainment, regardless of gender, ethnicity, that really unites us. But I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in the
Mhm.
industry. So I wanted to kind of, I don't want to say break a glass ceiling, but really enter that space and really make an impact and provide a different point of view.
Yeah.
So I started with the Atlanta Braves and then understood that when we look at multicultural audiences, we're not monolithic. And I wanted to make sure that we were understanding the different nuances that come around being a Black or a brown or LGBTQIA consumer, and really trying to understand that we can't use a broad kind of stroke approach, even with sports and entertainment, that we consume media, sports differently. So I wanted to bring that to the forefront and really make sure that it was a mutually beneficial relationship for Black consumers and for sports and entertainment. So that's kind of how I got started about 18 years ago.
Wow. Great backstory.
Yeah.
So now, because you do champion multicultural audiences, I do want to ask you some questions specific to these consumer segments. And you know as well as I do that speaking to consumers in a relatable, genuine, and impactful way, it can be a challenge for any marketer trying to reach any consumer.
Right.
But what are some of the ways that you've seen brands fail when it comes to achieving these goals when reaching Black consumers in particular?
Way that they fail. I think something I mentioned earlier is thinking that Black consumers with a capital B are monolithic,
Mm,
right? We are not all one certain type of way. And I think sometimes brands try to, I won't say to take the easy way out, but sometimes a safe approach, I would say, and
right.
try to generalize Black or brown consumers, not understanding that there's a lot, we're multi-layered, multifaceted. There's a lot that goes into who we are, our culture, our
Right.
geography, our education, socioeconomic background. So I think all those layers impact how you communicate with us. And I think sometimes brands um, maybe need to take it a step further to really unpack what that means and find a
Mhm.
way to really translate that message as opposed to just kind of taking a broad brush approach.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah.
So, and because I like to end things on a high note, what do
Yeah.
brands what do brands that excel at marketing to Black audiences do differently than their counterparts who are kind of struggling?
I think they take time to understand the consumer and bring that multicultural audience in at the forefront and not
Hmm.
an afterthought. So I
Right.
think it's really important to understand that the Black and brown audiences is really influencing a lot of things in mainstream media. I think it's important to use data to drive your direction so that you can quantify your results. We like to measure at Authentique, we like to measure what matters. So
Hmm.
for us, measurement is key. So I think having data that grounds your direction, understanding that there's segmentation within the segment really helps brands carve out lanes for their individual consumers. There's a universal truth, right? But how each consumer relates with that truth is where that really sweet spot comes in.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do at Claritas as well. So
It-
100% agree with you there.
yeah.
And so, anytime I interview someone, I want the listening or the viewing audience to kind of feel like they can walk away with some actionable insights. They could basically take some notes and get to work afterwards. Afterwards.
Okay.
So, I'm hoping your answer to this next question will achieve that for us.
Okay.
If your brand has a diversity issue in that they're not actively trying to reach a myriad of audiences, or they seem to only attract one type of consumer, so to speak, what are, let's say, 3 tips you can give them to do better and be better marketers?
Hmm. Okay, so have thought about this and kind of have had this question before, and I'm going to give
Okay.
one answer, but I think it's a layered answer. And I
Okay.
would say before you start marketing externally, I would say do the work internally. Right? A lot of times we find that the reason brands may have a challenge or an area of opportunity to reach a multicultural consumer is sometimes they haven't done the work internally. What
Hmm.
are your values? What do you stand for? What does your team look like? Right? It's one thing to market externally and try to reach a very savvy consumer, might we
Right.
add, right? They're going to do, and I say they, we, me, are going to do our research and pull receipts. What does your board look like? What does your marketing team look like? What are you doing in the community? It's not one thing to just say, oh, we're going to market to this audience. We're going to say, well, are you doing the work internally? How do your
Hmm.
employees feel? Do they feel valued? Do we share the same values? So I think before brands just say, oh, we should go after this audience because they're setting trends or they can help our market share, really make sure you're taking care of home and that you have the right representation internally because it's going to manifest itself externally.
Yeah.
So that's one answer, but I think it's kind of layered in understanding how to unpack that.
Right, right. And not every brand is going to reach everybody, and it's
Right,
maybe not fair to expect that, but what
right.
are your thoughts on brands that do have a niche where they intentionally try to attack or attract one type of consumer? Is that sustainable as a strategy, or does it limit them in the future if they do decide to be a little more inclusive and less, exclusive?
I think that it depends. I think
Okay.
that it's important to understand from a macro perspective what are some universal truths that kind of allow all consumers to have a seat at the table. But at the same time, it is important to have targeted outreach and targeted communication. And here's why: depending on the audience, you live in multiple worlds,
Hmm.
right? As a black consumer, as a black person, or as an LGBTQIA consumer, you live in a couple of worlds. You have to live in the day-to-day world, right? And that's okay, where you're interacting. And then sometimes you're at home, you're in your safe space, you're within your community where you might uh, talk a certain different way, or you might watch a certain type of TV or media channel. So I think you have to have both. I don't
Yeah.
think it's an either or. I believe in a yes and approach. So, yes, you should look at trying to have a universal truth. And you should also look at targeted media or targeted outreach so that those little nuances or that little kind of cultural wink
Hmm.
that you want to give that audience to say, I see you, I understand you, and I know how you have to play in both worlds. So I
Hmm.
don't think you should choose. I think it should be both and maybe a phased approach, understanding maybe what your 3 to 5 year plan might look like from an organizational standpoint.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you're saying about, we as a consumer group are not a monolith, so
Right.
brands shouldn't treat us as one as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's such a ugh. Just want to stop that if I could.
Yeah. So you mentioned this, and at Claritas, we deal in data just like you guys. So that's how we help our clients find their ideal audiences to market to. And this is a very unbiased conversation because we
Yeah.
don't work with you guys, yet.
Right. Yes.
So
Right.
I would love to know though, what are your non-negotiable data assets that you guys consistently invest in to make sure you're both staying at the forefront of what's happening in the industries that you serve, but you're also giving those actionable recommendations to your clients to help them achieve their goals?
Right. So we definitely believe in surveys. We definitely believe in focus groups. We definitely believe in just research, whether
Mhm.
it's through panels, whether it's through periodicals. Our agency is constantly reading and constantly trying to uncover new insights and new data because we know the consumer is constantly changing. Right.
Yes.
What we do today in another couple of months, whether it's because of the pandemic,
Mhm.
inflation, a lot of things are just impacting how consumers are interacting with brands. So we constantly are staying in touch on how we can relate to today's consumer. Focus groups are critically important for us. We tell our clients we should always test whether it's creative messaging with the multicultural consumer, very savvy. So we
Mhm.
sometimes only have one chance to get it right. So we want to make sure that we're methodical in everything that we do. And if we need to refine, we rather refine and get it correct than kind of do something that's trendy or something that's fast that has an adverse effect and we can't get that audience back. So
Yes.
a lot of research, a lot of panels, a lot of focus groups, a lot of reading just to make sure, again, that we're understanding the multifaceted, multi-layered consumer that we're trying to reach.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. You only have one opportunity to make a first impression. And, if you make a misstep, a lot of consumers, even if you try to course correct, they're not
Exactly.
on board with you. So, yeah, I
Exactly.
agree. Do it right the first time.
Exactly. As much as you can. Nobody's
Yeah.
perfect, but again,
Yes,
due
exactly.
diligence. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mentioned this in my opening, but February is Black History Month and
Mhm.
March is Women's History Month. What does it mean to you to be a Black female executive for a prominent multicultural agency? And where do you hope to see advances in the advertising agency for women of color?
For me, it is a huge, I say, responsibility and it's a lot of pride.
Mm.
Right. I know for me, and I could say a lot of Black women, I'm going to insert a little lyric. We started from the bottom and really have worked our way up. Nothing was given to us. We really worked hard for the positions that we're in today. And I think what I would want for other young Black women or Black women that are in positions now is to reach across. I don't like to say reach down because we're not better than anyone, but
Mhm.
just extend your hand to make sure that you're allowing other women to have a seat at the table. There can be more than one of us. And I think that's something that I really take pride in is making sure that whether it's a younger Black woman or a peer, making sure that we're making an inclusive space for other Black women to have their voices heard, to have their opinions respected, and also to do it differently, right? I'm not going to be a little uptight. I like color. I like energy. I want to bring my full self. I have purple hair. I want to bring my full self to the table and understand that you can be a dope woman and still be about your business. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm hoping, that there's a lot of joy, a lot of pride, and that we're leaving a legacy for other Black women to kind of blaze their own paths and their own trail, especially in marketing, because we're a consumer that's really important. So in order for us to market to ourselves, we have to be, in those rooms that are making decisions.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way for us to kind of wrap up the conversation
Right.
today. So, Jelani, it has been a pleasure speaking to you today and hearing more about how Authentique Agency has been able to achieve the level of success that you guys have and how you help your clients succeed in today's environment.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Monique. This has been dope. I've appreciated it.
Of course. So, before I do let you go, back to doing what you do best, please let our viewers know what's next for you guys. And if they want to connect with you or the agency, where can they go to do so?
So much happening. So we know that it's RFPs and work and making sure our clients are understanding, about the pandemic and
Yeah.
just making sure that we are staying ahead of trends, knowing that, no day is like yesterday. So just a lot of work for our clients, a lot of collaboration for us. Of course, I only know one Jelani with two eyes. So if you look any Jelani with two eyes and Reed, you can find me social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all that great stuff. And of course, AuthentiqueAgency.com is where you can find our agency to learn a lot more about what we're doing and ways that we can partner with other dope collaborators and creators in the space.
Thanks, Jelani. So we'll make sure to put those links in the description box of this video. So if you're watching, Go ahead and look down there. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And remember, if you want to meet better prospects, market more precisely, or improve your ROI, visit Claritas online at www.claritas.com.